Can you introduce yourself and provide a brief overview of your experience in delivering accessible solutions?
Yeah, I'm Sam Frederick with Implecho. We provide accessibility solutions through our various audio projects and systems that we offer and use with our clients. So that could be anywhere from assistive listening devices to a full-on assistive listening system. And everything we do is customized with the end user in mind.
When a corporate event planner comes to Impleco, what's the first thing you do to make sure that communication plan feels smooth and complete?
The first thing that I try to talk with an event planner about assistive listening solutions is I'll ask them the things that I've seen in their position, be forgotten about in the past and using our experience to help them with their event. So it's like, we've already the thought of we've done that before, so we can help you not go through that same process again.
Great. Thinking of accessibility as a great guest experience, how do you explain accessibility to a planner who is focused on the show floor, content, and audience experience?
The quick way that I would explain accessibility to an event planner is just that does each attendee or does each guest have the ability to listen or experience the event in a way that is most comfortable for them, knowing that there are a lot of different experiences out there and people have different requirements or preferences compared to what the average attendee may have.
What are a few signals that tell you an event should include assistive listening even if the planner didn't ask for it yet?
The number one way to know if it's something that should be included is through attendee feedback or a guest experience. If last year, if there was a note in the post-event survey that says, "Hey, I'd really like to have, an assistive listening device," that's obviously the first and foremost tell. The other thing that we always recommend is asking it in the registration process. Just a quick, "Hey, would you like or would you prefer to have an assistive listening device?" So that way you can get accurate counts and understand if this is something that your attendees are interested in or not.
And what does success look like from the attendee's perspective?
A successful event from the attendees' perspective would be that they went through the event with no lapses in receiving the content, or that they didn't even have to think about or worry about if the system was going to work for them in the manner which they prefer. So when it's all said and done, they should just have like almost forgotten that they used an assistive listening system because it was just so seamless and smooth for them throughout the entire week.
Where do planners usually underestimate the impact of accessible audio?
I think planners underestimate how impactful this can be, even if it's for one person at their event. It could truly be the difference of learning anything at an event to learning everything and enjoying and engaging in a way that's comfortable for them.
When did you start seeing demand for more flexible accessibility options at corporate events and trade shows?
We've seen more and more requests for these applications and solutions as event planners became aware that they were available. I think the demand and the need has always been there, but it was something that they didn't feel like existed in a way that made it efficient and comfortable and accessible for everybody.
What made Listen Talk the right fit for Impleco's approach to event execution?
Listen Listen Talks, customization features, ease of use, and reliability are some of the features that stood out to us to utilize and focus in on their system for our accessibility systems and options.
In one sentence, how would you describe what Impleco brings to the table in this partnership?
Impleco brings customization and start to finish planning towards accessibility solutions.
Impleco developed tap to pair stations to make assistive listening easier to access on site. What inspired that approach and what problem does it solve for attendees and planners?
That the tap to pair solution was directly inspired from a customer who came to us with a dream and not knowing how to achieve it. They knew what was best for their attendees, and we worked with them to create a solution that was one possible and two desirable in the attendee's mind. We didn't want to create a solution that yes, it checked all their boxes, but required more effort and work from the attendee or from anyone involved. It needed to be an easy and simple process.
Walk us through what an attendee experiences with the tap to pair station from the moment they approach it to the moment they are connected.
Yep. So from an attendee's perspective with the tap to pair solution, they receive a listening device that is, worn on a lanyard, on a belt pack, in their pocket, whatever they're comfortable with. And they would receive a pair of headphones, earbuds, a neck loop, again, whatever is most convenient for them. And then as they go throughout their event and they go to different sessions, to different rooms, go to a keynote, they take their device and as they enter the room, they tap it on one of our pairing boards that connects them to that room's frequency. And then they're often listening, to that audio of the room that they're in. So it doesn't require them to go and trade out a device. It doesn't require them to alert somebody that they're going to a different room. They're able to just go about their event as they please, but while also changing their audio frequencies and whatnot to receive exactly what they want.
What do you provide at the station to make it self explanatory, like signage, quick instructions, or staff support?
There's always staff support when they first receive their device. That's where they're gonna learn how the system works, get the quick facts of it, and then it's a repeatable process room to room, so every room is set up the exact same, so once they've done it once, they know what it's gonna look like the next time, so it's not if there's 20 rooms, they have to learn 20 different processes. Once they learn it once and understand what's going on, they're good to go throughout the rest of the event without questioning what they're supposed to do.
When event teams use tap to pair stations, what changes in terms of attendee confidence and overall accessibility experience?
It just creates a more welcoming experience because attendees are able to go about their event as they please, and they don't have to worry if the technology is going to be set up in certain rooms. So it makes it easier on the attendee and the event staff altogether, where it's a set it and forget it. Once it's up and running, no one needs to mess with it, and the attendee doesn't have to interact with anybody to make it work how they want it.
How do you keep the process inclusive for everyone, for people who may not be comfortable with tech?
I think the attendees understanding that they don't have to do anything extra. It's the same way that you might tap your badge when you walk into a room, except you're tapping, an accessibility receiver or device as they go in. They can sit once they get into the room. They can sit wherever they please. There's not a certain section or limited range to where they're able to enjoy the content. They can still go about it as they please, and they're going to receive the audio in a comfortable and reliable manner.
Switching over to interpretation now. When a planner says we need interpretation, what are the key decisions you help them make early?
Some of the key decisions around interpretation relate to how many languages, how many interpreters, and the various rooms or locations where these services will be needed. Obviously, a lot of planning is needed to have an interpretation setup work correctly. So the more information from the jump, the better, and also understanding what's the end scenario that makes everybody happy with the process, and then working backwards from there.
How do you plan for multiple languages across multiple breakout rooms without turning into a production headache?
Setting expectations and knowing what everyone's role is in that process, I think is the smoothest way to make sure that this doesn't become something that is a headache for everybody involved and is something that everybody smiles and feels fondly about as opposed to dreading working with something like that.
And how do you coordinate interpreters and channels?
That's all done, on site or when we ship the equipment out. If we know the different languages, the different users that are going to be on these different languages, we can set it all accordingly so that when it arrives on site, everything's labeled, set up, ready to go, and they don't have to worry about is this device on the correct setting.
And what does it look like when attendees need to switch languages on the fly?
Would just be from the manner of reprogramming their device or grabbing an extra one that's labeled English to Spanish to French or whatever it may be. So just clear coordination helps make that an easy process.
Now, swapping over to planning and execution and what makes it simple. If a planner wants this to be effortless, what should they tell you and when should they tell you?
I think every event's always going to have things changing on it. And that's kind of what makes us helpful in this space is that we understand that, the plan day one might not be the plan the first day of the event. From the day we start talking to the event execution, things are going to change. So we understand that, and just kind of being in the mix of information I think, is what's needed. It doesn't always need to be the final or the correct information. It just needs to, be what's the plan today, and then we just keep going with the flow and adjusting as needed.
What are the biggest operational pitfalls you proactively design around, like staffing, signage, and distribution flow?
Understanding that the interpreters are interpreters, they're not, event tech specialists, and that the attendees might not have seen a solution like this before. So just kind of planning that, and the expectation that if somebody has never seen something like this before, what do they need to know to have a successful event? And what do we not need to tell them to not bog them down with too much information and allow them to worry about what they need to be worrying about?
Branching off of that and thinking of date of confidence and support, what does on-site support look like, and how do you keep it calm and invisible to the show?
Yeah, on-site support can look like from fully involved to behind the scenes not being seen during the days of the event. So it's always what's needed for that specific event. It's never going to be a one size fits all, but it's always going to be a customized, personalized experience from start to finish.
And how do you train staff or coordinate with venue teams so attendees know where to go?
Understanding that everyone is going to have a different role on it and different responsibilities. So just kind of clear communication and understanding of who has what responsibility.
Without needing any sensitive specifics, can you share a moment where accessible audio clearly improved the event experience for attendees?
In any event, there's going to be a million things going on, from multiple sessions to networking with colleagues or, event professionals. So understanding that with all of these different things going on, somebody needs to be able to listen to the session or to, another attendee in a way that is comfortable for them. So just kind of knowing that you can make the difference of, all the difference to one attendee through a simple solution goes a long, long ways. And that person will always think fondly upon that event, that company, that session. Everything else just becomes seen in a more positive light because they were able to experience it in a way that was comfortable to them.
And what feedback do planners give you after they offer assistive listening or interpretation for the first time?
There's a very consistent feedback that it was a positive experience and that it made the world of a difference to those that used it. It's not assistive listening solutions are not always going to be for everybody, but for those that they are needed for, it's going to make all the difference in the world to them.
Closing things up, if a corporate planner is listening and wants to be ADA ready without complexity, what is the simplest next step?
This Just the first and most simple step, I think, is just knowing who needs it. Who needs it and when do they need it, and then building it out from there. We've had a lot of times where we'll send, one to two devices to an event because somebody requested it, but then somebody else sees that it's available and they didn't know that, and now they want it as well for their next event. So it's kind of a slow trickle in that way. And, if people are comfortable and they want it, we'd be always more than happy to help find a way that makes it efficient for that person to have a great experience.
What do you want planners to remember about how Impleco approaches accessibility?
I would like event planners to view Impleco with accessibility in a way that everything we do is customized for you. It's not a out of the box solution, and it doesn't also need to be this crazy intricate plan either. It can be simple, it can be easy, and it can make a big difference to the attendee.